Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hospitality Room podcast. Bobby Swofford, Blair Cartwright with you. Mr. Swofford is on the move. Bobby, where are you at today? Where are you headed?
Well, I'm supposed to be in Boston in about an hour, but flight got canceled of all things this
Oh,
morning. We're supposed to leave at 7:20, but here I am at a little after 11 in Little Rock, Arkansas, still waiting to get on a plane. We're going to Boston for the National Federation of High Schools summer meetings. We'll try to get a little
nice.
smarter for the next athletic year.
Will you recreate the tea party while you're there?
There's a good chance of that. But as most trips should be, there's not going to be a whole lot of work done. We're going to Red Sox game Friday
Oh,
night.
nice.
On Monday, I may or may not have only one meeting and have the rest of the day booked for the Patriots Hall of Fame. So
Oh, sweet.
yeah, so I'm gonna load up with New England history this weekend. Mostly
Very
Patriot
good.
history, but I may skip down to the
Yeah,
Harvard.
nice. Now, will you sit atop the Green Monster?
Yeah, well, at least I'm going to go up there and take a picture. There's no doubt.
Nice.
So you know me, I like to go hunt for mascots as well, and so I'll find Wally, the green monster, that is their
Mm-hmm.
mascot. So I'll probably get to Fenway. I've never been to Fenway before, so this is going to be my first time, and I guess the second oldest or first, maybe the oldest ballpark in the country. So I'm excited about it.
I think it is the second oldest behind Rickwood Field, which we'll talk about
Yeah.
momentarily. All right. Well, awesome, man. I look forward to the photos on the Twitter machine. Let's get right to our headlines. Well, I don't know how to feel about this, but V is obviously Fratello and victory. Tennessee wins in 3 games, and we'll get into all the subplots after this. But wow, Tennessee breaks the curse. First number one team to win the thing since Miami in '99. Are you surprised?
No, I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Like who'd expect to be the favorite? And I mentioned Tennessee just because they can hammer the baseball. I mean, they've got guys that hit, they move runners over, and obviously they've got a ton of power. They were the best team for most of the season. There's a reason they were the number one seed. Texas A&M lost one of the big bats in the lineup, 80 RBI guy. Their number two pitcher didn't pitch. A lot of this is stuff DVH was talking about in his press conference yesterday. If those two guys are there, maybe you think A&M's got a better chance. Obviously, they had a chance, forced to game 3 and only lost by a run. But, you kind of felt like Tennessee was a better team. And I think a lot of people who were rooting against Tennessee for the series are now glad that Tennessee won after what Schlossnagle has done in the waning hours after that contest.
Yes, and that brings us to the next headline, which is apparently it was Sloss all along. Something was dealt even before the postseason started, which would explain why Texas comes out with the announcement the day of the final game of the championship series. Of course, everyone thought it was Vitello they were going after, and they had Sloss in the bag all along. So it
Yeah.
was
Well,
like a,
obviously the
a dupe.
yeah the relationship with Del Conte, the Texas AD with Schlossnagle from their time at TCU, we get that. It's just a really bad look, Blair.
Yeah.
I mean, you've obviously built a national power at Texas A&M. I mean, he didn't build. I mean, he's only been there a couple of years, and he's a well-established product in the state of Texas when it comes to college baseball. It's just when he snaps on the reporter,
Mm-hmm.
and then comes out and essentially 24 hours later says, "Oh yeah, by the way, you were right." Um,
Yeah.
so the first thing that popped in my head when I saw these things is when did lying become a better answer than no comment? Because that's essentially what he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it was obvious they had their guy when they announced Pierce is done that morning. Because my first question was, why now? Why couldn't you have waited 24 hours
Mm-hmm.
to make that announcement? But we're also talking about the University of Texas, and there's an amount of arrogance there. But the next question is, what if A&M wins? How do you walk after winning
Yeah.
a national championship? Can
No,
you
yeah, that's
walk?
that's a great point. I don't know that you can walk, to be honest. But Texas has got resources. I know A&M's got them too, but It kind of seems like it was a done deal. And I don't know if you had a chance to watch any of Van Horn's press conference yesterday. It was about
Mm-hmm.
40 minutes, and so I kind of skimmed it, but I looked for some of those points where he was talking about that, and he mentioned that he had heard that Texas was going to fire their coach 3 weeks ago.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
I think everyone knew.
so we have probably known that this was going to happen for 3 weeks, or at least the people, the moving parts behind the scene. And so it obviously could have been a done deal before Texas A&M even made the run in the World Series.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think it was. And now there are allegations that they were actually recruiting, telling recruits they were going to Texas. But of course, all this stuff's going to come out, and whether it's true or not. But in a sense, did Texas sabotage their own guy? One, why would you leak it? And it's going to get leaked
Mm-hmm.
because obviously the A&M, the guy that covers A&M asked the question, knew to ask the question. So there was talk, and everybody else nationally thought it was Vitello. So in essence, did they? I mean, they really kind of screwed Aggie many ways because Sloss is thinking about that. So
Yeah,
it's
but he
just
may
so
not have been thinking
awkward.
about it. If he accepted the job 3 weeks ago, maybe he wasn't thinking about it. And
Yeah.
so maybe he obviously, when it came out that Texas was firing their coach and that they had a deal in place, everybody knew it was going to be one or the other. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it wasn't a distraction to him, and he's not playing the game. Maybe, but also, like,
Yeah.
we saw how many players from Texas A&M enter the portal, didn't bother
A
them either with him.
bunch. Yeah.
So I mean, you might as well take this year's Texas A&M team and just say, "Hey, just wear burn orange next week," because I mean, I bet that most of those players are going to transfer with him.
Yeah. It's
But
just it
also,
was yeah.
this is a big way for Texas to give the big double bird to A&M. I mean,
Oh,
they take the
totally.
spotlight. I mean, I think that's what you were alluding to. So that
Yeah.
they take the spotlight during the College World Series when all eyes are supposed to be on Tennessee and A&M. Texas, sticks those big horns out there, and people are talking about them, and they're in the
Yeah.
national conversation when they shouldn't have
Yeah. True. That's all anybody talked about the next day was
been. Mm-hmm.
UT instead of the other UT who actually
Right.
had a championship. So unbelievable. You mentioned Coach Van Horn. He had his. Or before we get to Van Horn, so who does A&M poach now? Because they're going to poach somebody, and they're going to have a Brinks truck to back up to somebody, and
Yeah,
it's going to start a chain reaction.
yeah. I mean, and so you go to see if there's anybody on the staff that makes sense. But I think he's taking his entire staff with him.
Yep.
And so you look at the relationships that the athletic director has, and what conferences that he came from. So to be quite honest, I don't know. I'm not privy enough. I don't think Arkansas fans are going to get lucky, and it's going to be Nate Thompson. I don't think that's going to be the hire.
No.
But I mean, but you're right. I mean, whoever they hire is going to cause an opening at another major school, a Power Five school, and then the trickle down is just going to continue to roll downhill.
It would not shock me to see them go after the Clemson coach. If he says no, they go after Sullivan at Florida. Wes Johnson is out, just signed an extension at Georgia. If it gets down to it, they might call Van Horn. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Speaking of Van Horn, you mentioned the press conference. Dave says all is well. Some guys may come back. I don't know. It just kind of seems deflating after what we've seen play out in Omaha and how it played out.
Yeah, it is, and but you see the type of players that are committing. And yesterday was a really big day for Arkansas. I mean, they got two
Mm-hmm.
really big time commits. I think I saw one website. It might have been D1. Kendall Rogers said that two top 25 commits in the portal. I think they're up to 8 now. There's going to be some more roster turnover. He said that there's not going to be a lot more, but I think there's going to be some players on Arkansas's current roster that see these transfers commit and say, okay, I may not have a slot here, and so I think the door is going to be open. And of course, this is kind of the waiting game for a lot of coaches like DVH that go out and recruit high-level high school talent. They've got to wait to see if they're going to get drafted and/or signed. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a really tough spot for Power Five coaches with money, because Arkansas can offer a little bit of money. They can't offer Major League Baseball signing bonus money.
True.
So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they handle this. And of course, they handle it every year. Last year, they were decimated by position players going to the draft, not so much with pitching. This year, you look at their current roster. I'm not talking about high school recruits. there's nobody other than Hagan that jumps off and says, "Oh, that's a big time prospect."
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the draft. Stovall, obviously, he's leaving. But other than those two guys, there's not a lot that says, okay, you're going to lose because of that. The incoming freshman, that's always the question mark. The Wiggins kid from Rollins, likely going to be a first or second round pick, likely won't make it to Fayetteville. From everything that I hear, of course, and that's my hometown, so I've got a little connection there.
Yeah.
But you just never know. I mean, a kid may have it say, "Oh, I want $3 million," and the scouts may say you're worth two, and all of a sudden he ends up in Fayetteville.
I think the biggest thing is the pitching has been, pretty good. They gotta hit the ball. They gotta be able to score runs. And that's the biggest factor that's holding this program back. And they haven't had a baller that's played every day since Benintendi. And they've got to
Yeah,
get guys that can put the bat on the ball. Bottom
they
line.
do. Yeah, and I think some of these guys in the portal are that. And you're going to have to be able to hit the home run in today's college baseball. You got to get on base. You can't hit solo home runs all the time. You got to be able to move runners over when you need to. You can't strike out in huge moments like Arkansas did time in and time out. Sorry, I've kind of got ADD, and so these people walk by. I kind of have to look.
No, that's fine.
See what's going on. That's why I found
Yeah.
a wall over here. I don't have to worry about over here. If something hits me from this direction, Blair, it's
Yes.
a plane. So no problem.
Oh, well, it being exclusive here on the hospitality. No, you got to people look at an airport. I mean, good Lord, that's just part of the deal. All right, so we move on from baseball to Major League Baseball. The Rickwood game. Did you have a chance to watch that? That was pretty cool.
I didn't get to watch it live. I watched some recaps of it, and I read some articles just because I think it's a really cool thing that they did. And of course, the Cardinals player hits a home run that went like 900 feet, which is really cool
Yes.
too. But to honor the past, there's so many times in history today we're forgetting how we got here as a society, and everybody's offended by everything. It's really
Mhm.
cool to see them honoring the Negro Leagues, and what done with those players growing up.
The only problem I had with it was they altered the outfield fence. I think it would have been cool had they worked around it and made it its original dimensions, which were like 460 and left center.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I mean, you kind of take away some of the charm of the park when you make it a standard fence.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I agree with that. You're going to say that nobody's going to hit it out at 460, but clearly so. That's not true because
yeah,
the kid for the Cardinals would have got it out.
yeah, no question about it. And then Reggie Jackson's comments, uh, uncomfortable but true. I don't know. Any thoughts on that or?
I don't know that I saw what he said. To be
Okay.
honest.
He talked about the fact that when he played in Birmingham as a victim of racism and some of the things, and it just it was it was a powerful moment, and it's one that you'd like to think we've moved on from, but it's not that long ago. So, I mean, it was pretty interesting and pretty heartfelt and uncomfortable, but something probably we needed to be reminded of. Hockey. 7 games. Nothing like a seventh game of a Stanley Cup final. Riveting, was it not?
It was awesome. But the one thing that was very obvious, and it happened about midway through the second period, Edmonton was out of gas,
Yeah.
and they looked like it. They had nothing left in the tank the last 5 minutes, but you could really start to see things were slowing down, and it was more about Florida and their attack early on, and Edmonton was playing the defense. They had some chances, but the last 5 minutes, you're thinking, okay, Edmonton's going to make a push. They're going to make a push, and they just had nothing left in the tank
Yeah.
to get over the hump. And it was very cool. Obviously, I kind of stayed up, and a lot of times after games, you turn it off. But that's one of the trophies you don't turn off. You wait
Oh.
to see them hand it out, and it was very, very cool for Florida. It's a franchise that doesn't get a lot of recognition, a lot of talk, not talked about a ton, but in the finals last year, winning it this year, pretty impressive to see what they've done. And it's hard to believe a Canadian team hasn't won the cup in 30-something years.
And it is truly amazing. The coolest moment afterwards, in addition to the players skating the cup, was when the coach was about to be interviewed, and here came the cup. And just the way that whole thing was handled and the way he handled it, I mean, that was just so cool. And that is you don't see reverent. I don't know if we see reverence for a championship trophy like we do for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I mean, and even Keith Tkachuk, the father of one of the players for the Panthers, played 18 years in the league, was a very, very good player, maybe even a Hall of Fame type player, and he never got a chance to win it. That trophy is so hard to win. You could argue that of the professional sports is the hardest to win because it's a crapshoot. I mean, literally, the 8 seed has gotten to the finals multiple times. I mean, all it takes is a hot goalie, and all of a sudden you're in the Stanley Cup final. So the stars have to align for you to make a run, and that's why you see so many great players, great coaches never win it, and why it's so important when you finally do win it.
Yeah. And Sean McDonough is amazing as a play by play
Yeah.
guy. He can do it all. And to do it alone with Ray Ferrara down at center ice is just amazing. NBA draft last night. Khalil Ware of North Little Rock goes 15 to the Heat. So an Arkansan goes in the lottery again.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. But other than that, I didn't know who any of those cats were. Really?
There was a lot of a lot. Well, I think 3 French players in the top 8 or 9
Yeah.
picks. You know, really surprising to see, but also we're seeing the growth of the NBA. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the Olympics had a lot to do with that. Starting back in '92 when the NBA started putting pro players in the Olympics, they had a chance to grow up and said, "This is what the pinnacle's like." Bird, Magic, and Jordan, and Shaq on the next run, and so the rest of the world's starting to catch up, and Europe is certainly putting out some big time players. But really cool to see Khalil Ware get drafted last night, 15 overall. We got to call the state tournament
Yes.
in which he dominated one of those games. I thought for a long time he was the best player on that team when he wanted to be. Effort was
Yes.
always a question mark with Ware. Effort was a question mark for his freshman year at Oregon. He transfers out, and you saw what happens at Indiana when he wants to play. He's
Oh,
really, really good.
yeah. I thought back to that tournament his junior year. We were on the call, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just everybody was spellbound after the
Yeah.
fact. So, congratulations to him. Let's get to football real quick. Arkansas, the schedule. How many wins do you see on this schedule, Mr. Swofford? If you had to
You know,
pick right now.
Yeah, so I'm a 5 win guy. And I haven't broken down win by win, but just based on who they have, without seeing them play
Mm-hmm.
a single game, I'm not sold on the defense, not sold on the offensive line, certainly not sold on the quarterback. I think they're a 5 win team. You're looking at UAPB,
Okay.
UAB to start the year. I mean,
Okay.
coin flip games, Oklahoma State, Auburn,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even Texas A&M because crazy things happen in Arlington. Uh, and you're going to hear me say this a ton between now and that second week of the season. That Oklahoma State game is so important.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
can find a way to win in Stillwater, you got a ton of momentum. But if you don't, and if you get embarrassed and say you get beat 2 touchdowns, you're going to have a lot of your fans jump off your bandwagon before you even play a home game. Because obviously that first game's in Little Rock on a Thursday night. The first game in Fayetteville may be half empty because they've given up on you already.
Yeah, it's gonna be, and we'll dive into that more. I think four. I don't know where they get five, but it's early, and crazy things can happen. All right, NFL. We haven't talked to NFL in a while. Trevor Lawrence gets paid $250 million. Hasn't won anything. Good move, bad move.
I think it's a good move. Yeah, he hasn't won anything, but he's still better than at least half the league, right, at quarterback. I mean, they got him some weapons last year, and I know they collapsed late, but he can still produce. He's not Mac Jones. He didn't look like Mac Jones last year. Uh, his numbers are scarily similar to Daniel Jones, but guess what? Daniel Jones
Mm-hmm.
got paid too. So I think you pay him just because if you don't and you go without, you're starting over, and quarterbacks in the NFL are a coin toss at best.
Yeah, I just wonder. It's like I get it, and he's been hyped, but he's got nothing to show for. I mean, what's the downside if you don't extend him? You start over, and you might actually pick somebody better in the draft because you're not doing well. But
Yeah, but if you go ahead and start him all year, and it's a division that now looks like it's owned by the Texans, but I mean they could
hmm
go. Say, what happens if they win 9 games? They go 9-8. They're 500, and you're picking in the mid teens. You're not going to get your quarterback in the future there. And now you're looking at okay, not only you're not going to win next year because you don't have a quarterback, maybe you're having a tank for a year, and then you're 2 years out. To me, if you've got a quarterback that's borderline top half of the league, go ahead and pay him and hope it pans out. We see what happens too much with teams that don't have a quarterback. You win 3 games, and you need to sell tickets. When you're winning
Yeah.
3 games a year, you're not selling tickets.
Well, and that brings us to the other point. New stadium deals, Jacksonville and Charlotte. Ironically, Jacksonville, after signing Lawrence, gets a new deal. They're going to put a roof on this stadium. Charlotte extends. Who knows what they're thinking, because they've got the worst owner in sports. They'll throw a drink on you if you vote against him. But it's, I don't know. It's just the money in the NFL right now is insane. Totally
It is,
insane.
yeah, and it's I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with the Sunday ticket rights deal. But these
Mm-hmm.
teams may be about to come into a lot more money because if they can sell their own TV rights and their own streaming rights, uh,
Mm.
they're going to print silly amounts of money. And so we did the math. They got on average there's 2.4 million Sunday ticket subscribers. It's $960 million that they get from Sunday ticket that they split up between the 32, obviously. If they let the individual teams say, hey, you can buy your team for 170 games, which is it's essentially $10 a game,
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the world just, I want to watch every one of my team's games.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Which would you rather have? Would you rather have well, I mean, it's an option, but which would you rather have? The team specific where you can watch all the Patriots, or do you want all the games?
I'm different. I want all the games. I
Mm-hmm.
do it because I want to watch every Patriots game, but I also like make Sunday a holiday in my house for 17 straight weeks. So
Yeah.
I would do the every team, and I don't mind paying the $300 and $400 whatever it is. But there's a lot of people that would love to cut that cost in half, if not a third.
I agree. And speaking of stadium deals, was in Kansas City a couple weeks ago. It sounds like a done deal. The Chiefs are going to move to Kansas. They're throwing a ton of money at them out by the Speedway. I I don't know. I hate losing an iconic stadium like Arrowhead, but that's how do you turn down the money if you're an NFL team?
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, you don't want to lose the stadium, but let's be real, the address doesn't mean anything. San Francisco
Yeah.
doesn't play in San Francisco anymore. Dallas doesn't play in Dallas. Uh, the Patriots don't play in Boston, and it's
Yeah.
actually a 45-minute drive from Boston. So, yeah, you
Yeah.
don't want to lose the mystique of Arrowhead, but their fans is what makes it loud. It's not the building.
Yes, but you'll lose the acoustic, so it'll be interesting. Um, I don't know.
But if you
We'll
put it in the
see.
dome, how loud? If you put it in the dome, how loud could that be?
Yeah, but then how do you tell it different from one dome from the other?
But I
I
mean,
don't know.
you've been to playoff games. You don't have to take that piece of cardboard in with you, so your feet don't freeze to the concrete. I
That's
mean,
true. There's
you
a,
put a dome in Kansas City, that place would be unreal. If they make it like a Texan stadium where it's more vertical than it
yeah,
is horizontal, you have a chance to make it really really loud.
I agree. House of Dragon season 2. Have you watched?
Have not. We're rewatching season one, so we're trying to get there.
Okay, final word.
We'll see you in Boston.
All right.